Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline Podcast. My name is Ben, and I have a very special guest today. Mikhail, please introduce yourself. Tell our fans what do you do professionally, and what are some of the more popular links people can find your work at.
Hi, Ben. My name is Michael. You can call me Grushkov because that's the name of my YouTube channel, on which I'm making music, which is my job. And I did recently music for Star Wars, not all Star Wars, but for the High Republic, Light of the Jedi, more precisely. I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was very young. I'm French too, so I have a French podcast
Mhm.
which is called Faucon Millennial, which is like the French version of a Millennial Falcon because we're all millennials on the
Yeah.
podcast, and we've been doing that since 2019 January.
Mhm.
So I've been in the Star Wars fandom a lot in France, and now I'm trying to expand because I
Yeah.
want people to listen to my music, to share
Yeah.
things. It's been an incredible journey since I started
Mhm.
making music. So
Well,
that's
we'll definitely link all the fans in the
yeah,
video. I like to, to prop my guests as much as possible. We'll make sure we direct people to your, channels. And I
yeah.
personally discovered your work as a huge fan of the, Star Wars in general all my life, and a big fan of the High Republic. I went to YouTube to upload my own videos, right? And I was researching something on the High Republic, and here I see soundtrack inspired by N4. I'm like, huh, hold on a second. This YouTube has barely any views. It's clearly somebody starting off just as me, something I could relate to, right? And I clicked on it, and I'll be honest with you, for the past couple of weeks, life has not been the same. It has inspired me. I'm like, I wonder, can I reach out to this person and talk to him about this? Because I'm so excited. We obviously have two people from two parts of the world who are united by something in common, right? So I wanted to start our conversation with something general and kind of like narrow it down to your specific project on the High Republic and talk about music in general. If you don't
Yeah,
mind, the first, obviously, we have to do Star Wars topic, right? What is
of
your
course.
introduction to Star Wars? What is your earliest memory of being introduced to Star Wars?
That's one I love because well, it's in French, but yeah, when I was little, I've always known Star Wars. My mother, she was a huge fan. I think she was a bit in love with Harrison Ford because it was like Star Wars and Indiana Jones a
Mhm.
lot. So I know my very first memory, my and maybe in my life in general is Han running down the Falcon, and I don't know what line it is. Um, it's in A New Hope. I
Mhm.
don't remember the the line in English in the real
Yeah.
language, but in French, it's a very weird dub. Instead of Chewie, they say Chico, and it is like, "Come on, Chico, let's go,"
Mhm.
something like that. So, and it's that my oldest memory is Han running down
Mhm.
in the Millennium Falcon, and it's been there my whole life.
That's awesome. What was it about? What years are we talking about?
Oh, that was yeah. So I'm 29. I was
Mhm.
born in '92.
Mhm.
So that one must have been, yeah, in VHS.
Probably like mid late
Time.
90s, right? Like 95, 96. No?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That my I know it was in my first house, and I
Mhm.
lived there for 3 years.
Mhm.
So
And what was the favorite
between 2 or 3.
musical piece or theme, something that stood out to you, like in your earliest memory of Star Wars? Like that's the music that comes to mind.
Oh, I know the ones I loved when I was a kid. My favorite one was Yoda's theme.
Hmm.
which is funny because I was so scared of Yoda when I was a child.
Really?
Like, yes, it was Yoda and E.T. I was so scared of them, but I
Hmm.
loved them too. Like, I wanted to see them, but
Hmm.
at night I was like, no, hiding under the sheets. It was funny,
That's
and
funny.
I loved the magical spirit in Yoda's theme.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite when I was little. You know, all of it.
You know, it's funny.
I love.
I told you before we started recording this that I'm originally from Russia, right? I was born in '81, so a bit older
Yeah.
than you are. And my father also brought it on VHS tape in 1987 when we got our very first VCR player on the street, and all the
Yeah.
kids would come to us. So in that way, it's funny. You're French, I'm Russian, living in New York City, but we all share that common experience of somebody introducing us. But you know, as a kid, and I could also relate to that cheap Russian dubbing that we have because we never had access to licensed Western cinema. So it was all on pirated VHS tapes, dubbed
Yeah.
over usually with one person, and that's all you had.
That's-
But you know, it's funny, you know, when you're a kid, you kind of like absorb it in one way, but now that you're an
Yeah.
adult and you're a professional composer, it's different. So I wanted to kind of realign the same question and throw it at you this way. What would you say as an adult who appreciates all this Star Wars material? What is the definitive track in Star Wars that defines and encompasses all of Star Wars to you?
Oh, one. Oh, that's a hard one.
I know.
But what to me, the one that is the most Star Wars,
Mhm.
it's the victory fanfare at the end of episode 4, uh, in
Nice.
the New Hope.
Hmm.
It's yeah, to me, that's kind of everything boiled down to
Yeah.
one single track. It's at the end. It sums up the whole movie,
Hmm.
and yeah, there are tracks that I love more, but this one is just pure Star Wars to me,
Yeah. I
and
think
it's
it's a
the one I
popular
would
one
think.
too. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of fans that I interact on the social media. A lot of people when they do polls and when they talk about the soundtracks in general, that's a popular one. My favorite would have to be the Imperial March. When I think Star Wars,
yeah,
it's the Imperial March, and I also know that there's a lot of fans of that. And also,
yeah,
it's interesting that obviously other soundtracks rely on that device, but Star Wars is known for having character themes, right? What are
yeah.
some of your favorite character specific themes?
Well, I was thinking about it recently, and I
Hmm.
think my favorite all-time character theme, it used to be the Imperial March, but I think Ray's theme is my favorite one. It might be one of the best themes Williams has
Hmm.
written. Sorry, I
Hmm.
was losing
Hmm.
my English. I fell in love with this theme almost immediately, and it stuck with me. And I know it's very divisive, the sequel
Hmm.
trilogy. But if there's one thing to take from it, is this theme is
Hmm.
beautiful. I love it.
Yeah,
There are others that are incredible, but this one's my favorite.
yeah. I would say the one that's unforgettable, and you know, it's you always come back to nostalgia and childhood and those earliest memories that kind of shape your personality. It's Luke coming out of his uncle's hut, right, on Tatooine, and he stares at the binary suns. It's called the binary
Yeah,
sunset track. And I would have to actually agree with you. I actually wrote it right here on my notes. I'm going to read it off. It's race theme. It's in anticipation for the Force Awakens. I mean, the hype was through the roof. I think fans were just as excited for this new trilogy as for prequels. And I was wondering,
yeah.
you know, I'm so happy they hired John Williams, but is he going to be able to pull the same magic off? I mean, he's in his like, you know, Twilight years.
It is,
And when
yeah,
I heard Ray's music, because I so much wanted to be an iteration, a different version of Luke Skywalker, kind of like this innocent youth finding her way
yeah,
through the galaxy. And I think, you know, obviously sequels are not flawless movies. They have their own set of flaws, and so do prequels,
yeah.
so what. But I felt one aspect
Everything.
where the film succeeded was showing that modernized version of a young hero, just like Luke was
I
for the
agree.
70s
Yeah.
and 80s. Same for Rey. And when you hear her tune, right, it's called a scavenger, when she like slides down that
Oh
sandy
yeah.
dune and she's like
That's
picking stuff up. It's such a beautiful, such a gentle little tune. I loved it, man.
exactly. Yeah. That's the notes right there, sliding down. I was like, yeah, I love
Hmm.
this movie. I don't care what happens next, just for this music, this little piece of quiet
Hmm.
moment in the film with just her theme, like that was it. I needed no more. That
Yeah.
was
Um,
awesome.
And after Disney acquisition, right now we're introduced a whole new world of Star Wars, right? There's a new canon, there's
Yeah,
new aesthetic. Obviously, once again, there's a whole set of issues of how we continue making Star Wars past George Lucas and now past
yeah.
John Williams. I don't think he's gonna write any more soundtracks. He's like completely
No, I
retired.
don't think
But
so.
out of the modern musicians, right, composers, we have Star Wars Rebels, we have Star Wars The Bad Batch, we have the obviously the new trilogy, we have Solo, we have Rogue
Yeah.
One, we have the Mandalorian show. Which are some of the composers which you find very, very interesting and are to your liking from the Disney era?
Well, my favorite of all of it, I'd say, of course, there's Ludwig Göransson on the Mandalorian. He's
Hmm.
done a fantastic job. But my favorite one is John Powell. What he did on Solo, I really loved it. It's one of my favorites.
Hmm.
It blends modern sounds and the classic John Williams scoring that we love, of course. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's my favorite one that is not John Williams. And
Hmm.
um, of course, Kevin Kiner, well, the Kiner brothers, they did
Yeah.
a great job on everything they've done. I really like what they did on the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with the series, but I love the music.
Hmm.
I love when they do what they want to do, not what sounds Star Wars, which is something that I hope less people try to do. I know I love Rogue One, but on the soundtrack, it's perfect, but it's too much like the original trilogy to
Too
me.
similar.
It's like
Yeah.
it's great. You can put it in the
Yeah.
the original movies. It fits very well, but kind of underwhelmed because I want
Yeah.
artists to do their thing, not to try to mimic what's
Hmm.
been done before. And that's why I think Powell has done, and Ludwig, they've done something great, and I hope it stays that way. And
Yeah.
we have many more great composers that come onto
Yeah.
Star Wars.
I think it's
Uh,
a great point that you bring that to me, I wish that for all of Star Wars, not just its musical component, but everything where they stop looking over the shoulder, and I constantly bring that concept in my podcast. And instead of asking the question, what would George Lucas and John Williams and the rest of them do? You got to take Star Wars into a new territory, break new ground, risk it, and then see if this
yeah.
sticks or not. And I think this is going to be our huge topic of the High Republic because I truly believe that's what it represents. But you know what? For some
I
reason,
agree.
I didn't think of Rogue One in those aspects. It's not my favorite of the new Disney era films. I think it has
Mm-hmm.
by far the best action and the visual look of the
Oh
film. I
yeah,
love
it's
the action.
incredible.
But for some reason, what Michael Guacchino was able to accomplish in what they gave him 6 or 8 weeks to compose the score, right? Because
Yeah,
they,
that was a very short time.
on the
So
very short notice, I didn't think of it in terms of whether it's familiar or not. I internalize music emotionally first. I'm an artist, and I rationalize
mhm.
it much, much later. That's a process that takes place much later when I tell myself why I
Yeah.
like something, right? When I heard it the
Hmm.
first time, all the major themes in Rogue One just blew me away. I thought they were quite interesting.
I think the end with when everything is going down, everything is
Yeah.
destroyed. Like that's so beautiful.
It's
Yeah, I
so
agree.
passionate. It makes you. I think one of my issues with the film was that beautiful actors on screen that are clearly talented, I felt that the film didn't clearly express and deliver the emotions that the characters were supposed to feel. But the musical aspect of it fulfilled that criteria. My next question to you
Agree.
is, let's move away just a tiny bit from the Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
and talk about music in general. I want to ask you, what is the importance of music in your life?
It's everywhere, and not just for me. Like my partner, they listen to a lot of music all the time,
Mm-hmm.
even when they're working. A lot of homeworking this
Mm-hmm.
past year, and there's always music on the desk. it's it's everywhere, and which is funny because I couldn't really talk about everything that I listen to because I have a very short memory, or I lose myself
Yeah.
a little bit when I'm trying to think about it. But it's everywhere. Like I couldn't live my life if I didn't listen at least to a little bit of music. Every time I go out alone without anyone, I make sure to have music in my ears the whole time.
Nice.
When I'm cooking, I cook a lot, listening to music
Mm-hmm.
or watching shows, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly listening to music. It's very important to me, and
Yeah.
it sets the mood sometimes,
I can definitely
which
relate.
is needed.
I remember my college years when I was studying traditional animation, and you would sit until midnight or past midnight in the computer lab, and you put the headphones and you drawing your drawings piece by piece, trying to animate
Hmm.
something. It takes you on a journey. It transports you to a different world. To me, it's honestly the most religious, like spiritual experience you could have. Like it just connects you and takes you to a different world. Because to me, it's an experience. Like when I say I listen to music, it means like
Yeah.
everything else has to be put on the side. It has to be proper environment, sometimes proper lighting, sometimes I turn off the lights, and it's an experience. I listen to it with my entire being, with my skeleton, with my bones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can completely relate to you that like it permeates every part of your life. It's just there. But when did you know that you also wanted to compose your own music?
I started composing more than 10 years ago, I think.
Hmm.
As soon as I started um, learning music, I was 16, so I wasn't that young, but started almost immediately writing my own things because
Hmm.
yeah, that was a way I could express myself because I I didn't have the words to say things I wanted to say. So, well, the ears to hear what I had to say sometimes. So,
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's I hear a lot of composers talk about that way. It's like they're communicating through music. It's something that I've also been taught in the art school. And the more you look at art, pieces of art,
mhm,
even well, regardless of what medium you're looking at, right? I go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art here in New York City, and you look at a Roman sculpture that's like hundreds of years old, right? Or thousands of years
yeah,
old, and it communicates something. It's just not just there to express master's talent that he was able to carve this piece out of marble or whatever medium he's using. There's more something in there. Art always is meant to communicate, and so does music.
yeah.
Do you have favorite genres? Like, do you have biggest influence in your work?
Well, for a long time, I was very much movie soundtracks and rock music. I find in my later years, well, I'm not that old, but I've started to appreciate almost everything. I find something worthy in every corner of music, even the
Mhm.
sometimes the weirdest ones.
Like what?
There are things I won't listen to, like very experimental
Mhm.
music, and there's something creative about it that it can appeal to me.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's I came from rock rock music,
Hmm.
a little bit of easy listening metal too,
Hmm.
and then a lot of soundtracks.
Yeah.
That's almost all I have on my phone to listen to, but I will listen to a lot of other things
Hmm.
anyway. So
I think you led right into my next question that I had on my list here. There's obviously musical genres. They're trying to accomplish different things. Sometimes they cater to different culture, different demographic, right? Whether it's chamber music or it's
yeah.
Japanese drums or ethnic music, right? They have all their different functions and purposes. What would you
Mhm.
say is the difference between what we call classical chamber music and film soundtracks?
Oh, that's I'd say you can have the well, it sounds different,
Hmm.
definitely. Sometimes when you writing chamber music, you won't try to adhere to a story,
Hmm.
which is something that movies soundtracks cannot really do.
Yeah.
So you can have a lot of freedom in this space, but you still have to tell a story, which is
Hmm.
sometimes you can tell a story in just one song for
Hmm.
5 minutes and then go in a completely different direction
Yeah.
and have a whole record, where it's a lot of little stories instead
Hmm.
of one big one over
Hmm.
2 hours, which can be, yeah, really refreshing. It's more intimate, um,
Hmm.
and you can try to do that too in film scoring. In film scoring, the one of the great things is you can you don't have to make something very orchestral in chamber music. Well, you have the instruments,
Hmm.
violin, violas, cellos, and basses, and that's all. You have to stick to it, which is great. But in film scoring, you can
Hmm.
go anywhere you want. So there's a lot of freedom in different fashions in all the in both, and they both can be very interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
And
I
I
always
know I try to listen to a lot of everything.
the way I always thought about it is where soundtrack music can certainly exist outside the film. It always felt like because I listen also to a lot of soundtracks. It almost feels
Mhm.
like when you listen to a soundtrack, you always attach a picture to it because obviously was written by a film, but also it's like a part of the cinematic language, right? It's
Yeah,
a part of the picture. It informs the film. So like when you listen to soundtrack like Star Wars or any other one, when you listen to a character theme and stuff like that, it's
yeah,
meant to evoke an emotion in this part of the film, in this scene, with this particular lighting and this particular event happening, whether it's starships flying, right? And just Lando Calrissian
exactly.
swaggering onto that station in a Bespin and he tries to introduce himself like, who have we here? He introduces himself to Leia, stuff like that. So it's always to me was, if it makes any sense, music that is more visual. Film soundtracks always felt like they're extensions of the picture. They're trying to continue the visual language of the film. So aesthetically and they're in essence they're different from chamber music.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Which is funny because you can listen to chamber music and still try to give it your own pictures
Yeah.
and stick to it. Every time you listen to it, it will evoke things.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's a piece of music you listen to in a very particular moments in your life,
Yeah.
and every time you listen to it afterwards, you will think back to this.
Hmm.
It can happen with a lot of things, but I find it funny that you can you can do it too, but you have to let yourself be inside the music. I don't know if
It
if it
makes
makes a
total
lot of
sense. And
sense.
actually the way that you're wording it I never thought about it this way, but I completely understand what you're saying. It's like music becomes a wave, a huge ocean wave that just carries you, and you become this just like swimmer in the ocean. It becomes bigger than you. Like it flows through
Yeah.
you, just like when Yoda says the force. So is with music. Like you become completely receptive. You don't react to it. It's like, oh, I like this part. That's intellectualizing. I like this part. I wish they cut this part over here. There is no mental processes, right? You're just there and you observe it with your body. And then after it's over and the wave is gone, then you can decide, well, this moment really stayed with me. I didn't care for this one. The rationalization comes later. But it's in a way that you worded it that you're in the music, right? It surrounds you
Yeah.
in the sense that it's bigger than you. Right.
Yeah.
And in that regard, if you can remember or recall, do you have favorite musical soundtracks? Could you name like 2 or 3 with your favorite composers?
Favorite soundtracks. Of course, my mind goes blank right now. Well, people I've noticed a lot, like how it did on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's magnificent. To
Howard
me,
Shore,
it's
yeah.
one of the it's one of the best ones. And I didn't try to mimic it because, like I said, I don't like it. But yeah, I love the vibes that it gives, and that's what I try to recreate in this more ancient quote unquote time in the Star Wars timeline. That's you, Star Wars timeline.
That's me, basically.
This one might be my outside of Star Wars my favorite. It's one I listen to a lot of times, like at least 10 times a year, the whole trilogy. Which I didn't do when I was writing my music because I knew I had these vibes and I didn't want to be influenced too much. But this one is my favorite. There are a lot of composers that I like. Recently, I loved the Knives Out soundtrack by Nathan Johnson. The same. I love when you can really listen to it and still have the real experience. There are composers like Hans Zimmer that make great music, but a lot of times when you listen to their soundtracks, you can kind of blend in multiple ones from their whole career, and it won't be too different. So, which is great. They have their way to do music,
right?
But also, what does it say about the story? You can't really just put it from start to finish and have a complete story, like you can have on, like what I said, of course, Star Wars the soundtracks, or Lord of the Rings soundtracks, and I have a lot more that I love, but my mind is
no, it's fine. You brought a couple, and you
done.
actually brought one from my list. I would completely agree with you that Lord of the Rings by Howard Shore. But I have 2, which I'm not sure if you would be familiar or not. I'm just going to call them out and see, because what I wanted to make a point of is whether you consciously or subconsciously do it, I feel that we are all inspired as artists. And art, that's how it travels, that's how it evolves. When somebody hears a sound or sees a picture, inadvertently you will incorporate it into your work. And it's not to say that I think that you copied from here. Look, my professors in school always told us, copy as much as possible. Copy stuff, see what was done before, understand the formula, then you will know how to break that formula. And
that's true.
There is a couple of soundtracks which are some of my favorite, which I heard in your High Republic. I don't know how much they influenced you, but I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's you understanding where music comes from and where it goes to next, and here you are in between of it all with your own project. One of my, I would say probably my favorite musical soundtrack, which to this day I regard the greatest movie soundtrack ever composed is the original Ben-Hur from 1959.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
you've seen that movie,
it's
but
been such a long time.
it's
Such a long time.
it's magnificent. It's every
Yeah.
second of it is just pure stroke of genius. But the other one that I wanted to bring up in this discussion, which I think is very very relevant to your High Republic project, is the original Conan the Barbarian by Basil Polidoris, this Greek composer, right? And I will ask you a couple of questions as we now will start jumping into the High Republic project, but I felt a lot of his influence because Conan the Barbarian soundtrack was done in a very interesting manner. The studio wanted a very kind of like traditional chamber music score for it. And John Milius, the director of the film, plus what's his name? Oliver Stone. No, it's not was Oliver. I'm sorry. Francis Ford Coppola, who wrote this, helped write the script for the film. Both of them said, like, look, no, we can't go with traditional classical music. It's a barbarian. It's this like primeval, primordial kind of like storytelling.
Yeah.
We need to give them this barbaric, this like visceral sound. And they started introducing the drums. They started introducing a whole set of different instruments. So Conan the Barbarian was able to leap ahead and completely distinguish itself from the trend of the day and create a completely different sound. And when I heard your High Republic, I listened to it from start to finish the first day, and I was listening to separate tracks throughout the week. And today, before our interview, I listened to the whole thing all over again. And that's what
a lot. Thank you.
And that's what it can. No, I really enjoyed it, man. It communicates to me an effort on the composer's behalf to do something different. And now I want to take our discussion to the High Republic, right? Why this era? Why not? I don't know if you're familiar with like Legends or other Star Wars time period. We have the Old Republic, we have the original trilogy, we have the Clone period. Why the High Republic?
Yeah, why? Well, like you said, when I was younger, I barely read any Legend stuff. So I know a lot of it, but I didn't really get into it when it was time. And now everything is there, so I could still go back. But I started with the new canon, and I've read a lot of it. And some of it was great, some of it was not that great, and but nothing was different. I don't know how to really say it, but when they announced the High Republic, I was tired of Jedi. They were like, yeah, it's like
surprise,
the peak of the Jedi, and I was like, great. And then they started showing what they were working on, and it got very interesting. And having a podcast, I had to read it anyway. So I got to it and just fell in love with it. It really is Star Wars in all the best ways, and it's still new and fresh, which is not something we can say about all of it. Like, I love The Mandalorian, but it's still in the same kind of time period.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Else, and I love it. Of course, I love it. It's the original. It's classic.
Yeah.
But I craved something new, and the High Republic gave it to me.
Yeah.
While still staying very familiar.
You know when it was first announced, I was kind of skeptical. So I've been reading Star Wars Legends for close to over 20 years, actually. Back in my high school days, right? When I first came to America, it was difficult for me to kind of like understand sci-fi literature. But where I started, I really wanted to learn was the Star Wars books. And when the new canon was announced, I'm like, okay, so they're going to shelf all the stuff they have done. This is 40 plus years of rich storytelling. They're not going to tamper with it or try to change it around. They said, look, let's just call it Legend and give new authors opportunity to also play around in the sandbox and do something new. And I kind of took it with skepticism. I'm like, okay, let me take it one step at a time, see what they do, and see if I like it. And when the High Republic was first revealed, I was a bit skeptical because just like you, I was like, okay, here we go. It's the Jedi. It's the height of the Republic. They seemingly will face no great threat like the Sith, and we already have the great old Republic content. How much different can it really be? And when I read the first book, which I'll ask you my next question about, the Light of the Jedi, it completely swept me away. Not just with how good it was, right? But it introduced the Jedi in a way that I imagined them to be as a kid.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the key.
I'm telling you, when the prequels came out, I'm not a huge fan of prequels, and one of the reasons is I could not get on board with this militaristic, pompous, arrogant, blinded Jedi that I'm like, hold on a second. I understand you're trying to do something different here and show the fall of this order and how they were corrupt from inside, but I just could not identify with it from what my earliest memory of the Jedi were from the original trilogy, where they're almost described as these ancient wizards in Lord of the Rings, that they rule through respect and authority, not through military might. And when you read the High Republic and you meet these Jedi who are on the frontiers, on the fringes of the galaxy, and they're not this organized military group, they're just trying to do well by people. I'm like, dude, these are the Jedi that I remember. And my question to you is, what was your personal impression of the Light of the Jedi book, and what specifically did it make you feel?
Oh, yeah. I got into it, and well, we know how it starts. Very, very bad, and everything is destroyed. And then the Jedi arrive, and it was like, yeah, that's what the Jedi should be like. And I wish we could have seen them like that, at least in a part of the the prequels before their fall, because they're striving towards the light, really, and they're just trying to be good, and they're not scared to die. Literally, some of them die to save people, not to fight people, which is what Star Wars is all about to me. It's like, I know, once again, something controversial, but Rose is kind of, her famous or infamous quote about saving what we love. But that's kind of what Star Wars is about too. Your drive should not be to fight people, but you should fight because you want to save people. And that's what they do. The Jedi of the High Republic, they don't want to fight, they want to protect.
Yeah.
Really, they if they can not kill, they will do. They won't kill.
I think it shows them from that, not from the high moral ground, but really this altruistic group of people who really want to help. And all of the Light of the Jedi, right? I think we're going to focus on the first book because that's what you dedicated your soundtrack to. It's a very cinematic and very visual kind of story. And I wanted to ask you, as a composer, how does text translate into sound?
Well, I read the text, and I have I like you said, it's a book that is very easy to attach your own images on. And that's what I based my music on, not directly onto the words, but onto what the words made me see when I read them. And it's a very well written, easy to read book. People complain that there are too many characters and all that. I think they all have their own voices, and it was kind of very easy for me to get into it, because it just worked itself. I didn't have a lot of work to do me. It worked, and it gave me all these images
Hmm.
that were, yeah,
So you would accredit it to the
big.
you would accredit it basically to the style of the book, that it just was, it absorbed you so much that it just the music just came to you.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
exactly that. I reread it to write my music, and it was just like the first time.
Yeah.
It really was
There's
a great experience.
there's one track that I want to talk about, and the Great Disaster theme, which I absolutely love. And I think, again, it's just my interpretation, and I'm not in any way trying to say that, trying to copy somebody. And I think actually it would be a bit of a compliment. But I heard Lord of the Rings theme in there, specifically a theme from Fellowship of the Ring called A Knife in the Dark. Right. And I'm
Yes.
listening to the main theme there. I'm like, oh, it's almost like, because I mean we all know what the Lord of the Rings is. It's one of the most popular franchises in the world, right? We
Yeah.
all know where the sounds come from. And to you, a growing artist, a composer, it almost felt to me like I know of the greatness of the material that exists over here, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to incorporate a little bit of here and put it here, because I feel as a composer that within the context of my story, it would also make sense to kind of like follow up with a somewhat a similar melody. How much of Lord of the Rings, like Knife of the Dark theme, was inspired that particular, the Great Disaster theme?
Well, that's funny because it's this little thing. It's something that I wrote uh, without thinking about Lord of the Rings, and then I put it on paper and
Mm-hmm.
I put it, with all the instruments, and I was like, I sent that to my friends and asked them what they think about it. They were like, "Yeah, that sounds like Lord of the Rings," and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, well." I try to build on this because I don't want to change it anyway, because it's exactly the what I have in my mind, in my heart. That's what I want to do. And yeah, I was afraid that it sounded so much like Lord of the Rings, but at the same time that's what I had,
Yeah.
and wouldn't change it.
I'm
uh,
so happy you didn't, because I
any
think your instinct in this specific case served you right. Where I feel that it's you when you listen to that track, it doesn't say I copied. It sounds like, oh, it's inspired by, but I'm doing something interesting and new with it, and it's that slight familiarity, and then you take it into a different direction. It just feels right. You know what I mean? It's like, once
Mhm.
again, all
Yeah,
art.
that's why I didn't change it.
Yeah, all art
Just
comes from somewhere. Like, you can't not acknowledge masters that came before you. And when
exactly.
when you do it in the manner that you did, it just feels right. It's like it punctuates the story so well. I'm like, oh man! And even the choruses that you use, I imagine they're synthesized later there,
Yeah,
which obviously not only Lord of the Rings, other scores do it repeatedly. It's a popular device to use in the musical score, but it just works right. Just, what's interesting about the entire project? It never feels like it's pieces and chunks of inspiration sporadically put together into one bulk. It feels connected. It feels united. It feels very
yeah,
wholesome, right? And when you listen to this particular note there, it doesn't detract you. It doesn't take you somewhere else. You're still here in the High Republic. And once again, I just wanted to congratulate you and say, like, it's such a
thank you.
great success and worked really well. And I wanted to ask you also, as a composer, I took general musical theory and history of music courses in
Yeah.
college, but I wanted to ask you, what is the significance of reprise and callbacks in soundtracks? And first, if you don't mind, like, just in 2 words, describe to fans who may not understand these terms, what is the reprise and what is the callback in music, and why is it important in your soundtrack?
Well, how do I explain it? I have something to say. I learned it all by myself. Never took any
Oh,
courses.
wow.
Every music I've learned, I taught it myself. So what we can say is that it's like themes, it's colors in the music that come back. It's very important to, especially to soundtracks, but when you're trying, in operas,
Hmm.
all that, just having something that comes back sometimes, and not always in the same way, or in a different context. It's very helpful to, yeah, to build a story, to
Hmm.
tell it, and that's something I relied on a lot in this one, because
Yeah.
I thought it was very important. Like I could have done it all without having real themes, but making more like songs that get one after the other. But
Hmm.
it was very important to me to have this, because, well, first of all, it's very important in Star Wars in general. Musical themes, but, well, you can see on YouTube. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people who will talk about it at length. It's very important, and it sometimes helps to set a mood. So one of the themes, the first one I came up with for the Light of the Jedi was Bell's theme,
Hmm.
that kind of rises. Um, and to me, it was important to get that right in the beginning, so I could write it and then incorporate it in different moments in the
Hmm.
narrative where Bell comes
Hmm.
and does something. And, well, I'm working right now on the second one, on the Rising Storm, and it's very helpful because
Oh man, you just dropped the
Bell.
bomb here.
Yeah, it
Nice.
was a lot of work, but I said, well,
How long it
let's
took you
do
to
at least
compose?
one trilogy.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
How long it took you to compose from start to finish?
I looked up and I started the first track, which was the first one I finished was The Great Disaster, and it was on September 29th.
Hmm.
So it took me 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah,
I imagined a lot longer for some reason. I don't know why. I imagined like at least half a year or
it
something like
should have been longer, but
that.
I
Yeah.
wanted to. I don't know why I wanted to really do it and
It feels
get it
like
out.
it feels. I'm not a music critic by any means. I have a younger brother who does like heavy metal reactions. Me and him, we grew up
Hmm.
like on heavy metal music and stuff like this. I react to music as an artist very emotionally first, intuitively, and again, intellectual aspect of it comes much later. When I listened to the soundtrack, it felt like it's just one solid stroke. It's like, let's just do it, like boom, you know what I mean? It's like I'm sure you can relate to this. When you
Yeah,
drawing a piece of drawing or you're animating something, sometimes you feel so possessed and so this force takes over
yeah,
your pen and it just walks through you. Like, man, I gotta get it done, I gotta get it done, and it builds itself
yeah,
almost, and you observe the process as the creation is there right before you, right?
yeah. That's why I think that I have two kids, so I had to stop sometimes
Yeah.
to spend time with them and cook for them and all that, because otherwise I would have just gotten swallowed in it, and
Yeah.
which is a great feeling. Like
Yeah.
it's work, it's exhausting, but also um, when you're done, especially when I put it out and everyone was just so
Really?
nice
Oh
about it.
man, for a change,
That
Star
was
Wars fans are being nice.
awesome. Yeah, that was like I've been in this fandom for a
Yeah.
lot of time, and
Hmm.
like just discovered the High Republic Twitter,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and everyone is so nice in that, and
Yeah.
that's rewarding. But yeah, it was a lot of work, and still, and I'm glad I had something to pull me out of it sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes I was just singing things when I was looking for my children,
Yeah.
or at school when we were going to take them.
Hmm.
It was still, my partner was laughing because I was like,
Yeah. That's cool. Which track would you say was the most difficult for you to find the right sound for, and which one you're most proud of?
so I'm
Which
gonna
I would say
look.
which track was the most difficult for you to write and you're most proud of?
I think the most difficult ones might be, I say the Starlight Beacon,
Mm,
because it doesn't really appear until the end,
right.
and I was looking forward to it and dreading it because it's a very important moment in this era, the Starlight Beacon. So I wanted to get it right,
Hmm.
and I still don't know if I got it right or not. Well, which is
Hmm.
something, you know, as an artist, you're never really fully
It's
satisfied.
going to be up to the, I think, audience to decide. Once my personal feelings are, that art doesn't belong just to author; it belongs to everyone. Once your book is out there and people are reading it, once your musical score is done and people are listening, once you completed the sculpture and the chisel comes off and it's done and your work is in the public eye, it belongs to the audience as much as it does to you. People put on their own interpretations, like you said earlier, the people put on their own pictures and people make this art also their own. I think it's going to be in the long run up to your fans, up to your audience,
Hmm.
whether you made it right or not. I
Yeah.
have also a couple of favorites in your track in the High Republic. I loved the Nile one. I can't wait for part two. That second part of the Nile, I must have re-listened to it at least 10 times. I'm like, I couldn't believe, like, obviously, like, it just something spoke to me. This person he's a professional composer, he's a growing composer, and he's probably has a lot more to learn about music, but it just felt so complete on the professional level. I would not be surprised to hear this somewhere like in a high budget Hollywood movie. Elfnora Chase was so high velocity and exciting to me. But
Yeah.
if I were to say what is my number one track in the entire project is Knights of the High Republic. First of all, badass title track. Just not Knights of the
Yeah.
Old Republic, Knights of the High Republic.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, to me it hit all of those notes that is Star Wars, that is the High Republic, and it demonstrates the nobility. Obviously you played on the classical, right, John Williams motif there,
Yeah.
but it also, I think, was necessary to illustrate this nobility and the kindness and the very best quality of the Jedi before they start falling in the prequels.
Yeah. Which is that's funny because this one is the last one I did. I did everything else, and then I was like, I need something to tell people this is what this is about.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had everything. I said, well, I took something from there, take something from there, and
Hmm.
I put it all together. Like you will write um, an orchestral piece for a theme that, like
Like
we
an
talked about
overture.
it, race theme,
Mhm.
uh, which is something that can be played in concert,
Yeah.
and we call it concert versions. Like
Hmm.
that's something that represents what all the rest of the tracks on here are about. And I took
Yeah.
the theme I wrote, which is funny because at first when I wrote this theme, I was like, that's the Republic theme. And then as I used it and listened to it, I was like, more this is the Jedi theme. It's solid. It's it it's regal in some ways,
Yeah.
which is what I wanted to do. And I rewrote the Force theme, the Binary Sunset,
Hmm.
and I used it. in this new style that I was trying to do for the soundtrack, and I was so happy it worked. Uh, and yeah, that's one that it's not my favorite because I did it at the last time. To me, it's more. This is the commercial
Yeah,
one.
the commercial for the whole project.
But yeah, I put it what it's all about. It's
Yeah,
the record,
yeah.
the soundtrack.
I would say to me, it sounded almost like an overture. It
Yeah,
encompasses the whole project. It brings it together. I wanted to, for the last topic of our discussion, to go back just to general music discussion. And we talked enough about Star Wars and the High Republic. Very general question, and it's answer it any way you feel. Where does music come from?
the heart. uh,
Yeah.
well, it can come from the brain. Like sometimes you can write music like you do mathematics. Uh, a lot of music theories like that. But when you're writing, it's very important that you write what you want,
Mhm.
what you want to say but cannot say,
Yeah.
which is what we said at the beginning,
Yeah,
and I
that's a
still
beautiful
do
way
that.
of saying it, right? Because words, to me, when I listen to music, especially heavy metal, I'm a huge fan. I go to like every single
Hmm.
concert when they come to New York. I just saw the last concert was Iron Maiden before pandemic, and after the pandemic, Megadeth. I also saw them at the concert. Finally, it felt like a
Yeah,
little bit of normalcy in this pandemic, and we something
yeah.
to do. Um, the way I was taught, I remember, of the earliest, history of music and the earliest instruments like the drums coming from obviously Africa, and it always felt like music is this human impulse to communicate something. Like I imagined always
Yeah,
these like our great ancestors sitting, and drumming those war drums, and like because drum produces that kind of vibration, that sound that gets right to
yeah,
here, right? And it's like
yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready to sacrifice my life for my village. I'm ready to go
Yeah,
take over my enemy and take his territory and get his livestock in order to survive, right? This is something very, very important to me. And the way that I'm going to communicate is something that 1,000 words can't say. Even in heavy metal like songs, I don't listen to lyrics oftentimes. That's not what speaks
yeah,
to me. If I really enjoy the musical piece, I'm like, so okay, I really like this song. Let me go and find out what the words are about.
yeah. That's funny. That's something I did literally yesterday. I listened to a song,
Hmm.
and I like, yeah, that this one it speaks to me, and then I looked up the lyrics.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
And yeah, even the lyrics spoke to me afterwards, and it was another experience
yeah,
totally. Like the music said something, and the lyrics said the same thing in a different way. That's funny, and they mixed together so well. So
yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
How do you prepare
music.
for your new project, and do you listen to other artists in preparation?
In preparation, I listened to a lot of old operas. I was trying to find sounds that were noble. I don't know if it's the right word, but something that's, yeah, knightly, something
Hmm.
that's brave,
Okay.
something that makes you feel the braveness, the the righteousness somehow.
Hmm.
So I listened to a lot of Brahms, Wagner, which was very funny listening to some Wagner. There are some great conversations in the YouTube comments
Hmm.
about artistry and the views of the author, which is
Hmm.
always an important topic. Um, I listened to some Dvorak and Tchaikovsky, which is my favorite
Hmm.
uh, classical composer.
Makes me proud.
You should. He's
Yeah,
very good.
of course. Yeah, we can agree on that. The rest of the world can agree with us. He's very good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I listen to the
Mhm,
most, which is funny because it didn't really permeate in terms of sounds on
mhm.
the on what I wrote, but also I think it would have turned out very differently if I didn't do that to find something that inspired me.
I'm from the 80s, and I growing up in Russia with a lot of European costumed pictures, whether it's a historical movie or whether
Yeah,
it's like a medieval knight story, French cinema, the Three Musketeers, all the classical French
yeah,
classical films we grew up with, British films, like Robin Hood stories. When I listened to the High Republic, it had that very old school sound to it. I wanted to ask you, what instruments do you play, and what digital tools did you use for this project?
I play guitar.
Hmm.
That's the main one, and a bit of piano, and that's all. I'm mostly a composer. I mostly write
Hmm.
because I don't think I'm very talented with an instrument in my hands,
Hmm.
which is something I hope I can correct in the future, or something that I can
Hmm.
do better. So yeah, I wrote a lot on uh, Reaper, which is an audio. Um, I don't remember how we say in English.
Like it's a digital tool,
Software,
like a software, yeah, like
yeah,
programming. Hmm.
and Contact,
Hmm.
which is one of the main ones to make music,
Hmm.
um, and that's mostly what I did. I used another one that I used to write sometimes to have a preview, which is a Guitar Pro
Hmm.
6, which is an old an old one now, more 10 years
Hmm.
software. That's mostly how I did it.
I like the sound of it. It's almost like being a big video gamer myself. It almost had like the quality of sound loops and like sound melodies that you create gave me that nostalgic feeling of playing like a role playing RPG games from PlayStation 2 era. Because obviously, back in those days, video games weren't as a huge industry as they are today, and sometimes a smaller studio would not be able to hire a live orchestra, so they had to rely on the
Yeah,
tools. But you would hear genius of music even in 16-bit, like do 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 do, even that kind of
yeah.
like music.
Sometimes it's so impressive.
Right? It is so impressive. It's like Nobuo Uematsu is one of my
Yeah,
all-time favorite
yeah.
musical
This
composers,
one
right?
is,
You know him. And, he is able to
yeah,
take the simplest tool when an artist is being held back and limited by his tools, his true genius comes out. Because, like, how can I
yeah,
work around and circumvent these limitations of this hardware and create the sound that gamers, young players will respond to? And Final Fantasy soundtracks are a testament to
yeah.
that.
Uh, my mind went blank at the beginning, but
Yeah.
he's one of the greats too. One of the those I've listened to the most.
Yeah.
It's impressive, and it's been a huge part of my life too.
Yeah.
Not even all the games, but the music.
Yeah.
Even my kids know some Final Fantasy music, and they never even
Nice.
played one, which was very funny. They have their favorites. Like
That's
one
cool.
is a T-Fast theme
Yeah.
from FF7,
Hmm.
and the other one I don't remember, but it's from
I love
9.
the carnival from Final Fantasy VIII when the witch Edea comes out and she has this whole procession of carnival and these jesters are
Yeah,
dancing. Oh man, I listen to that stuff over and over and over again.
it's just great
Yeah.
with very little real instruments.
Yeah.
Which
What advice would you give to beginner composers, especially something that you wish somebody told you early on?
um well, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid by your lack of theory,
Hmm.
which is something that I really lack, and I wish I knew more. I wish I've studied more.
Hmm.
I hope I can do that, but it's it's not the only thing that will help you write music, and music is more than just the theory.
Interesting. I think I've exhausted my questions. If you have anything you want to throw back at me and ask me a question, I'll be more than happy to ask you. And after, and to conclude, I had one bonus question that I had to ask you. I just have to.
I'm watching. I don't think I have anything I want to.
Well,
to
I
touch
do.
on.
I do have a question. Please, you just revealed, right, exclusively for my super mega channel, you have revealed that you're working on Rising Storm. I can't wait to hear it. I'm, as you can tell, I've become a fan of your work, and I hope I can invite you over if you're willing. We'll discuss all of your future content here. I'll be honored to do that.
Me too.
The Nihil, very short and sweet piece, and I think you truly recognize when you love something when there is just a little bit of it in the entire soundtrack, but you want more. When you listen to a song and it has one little transition, or in case of heavy metal, one interesting quick solo, and the song moves to something different. But this particular section was so good, you want more of it. So my question to you, good sir, is, are we going to hear more of that Nihil theme, particularly that second part, that visceral, almost violent part?
I mean, if you've read The Rising Storm, I assume you have.
Yeah.
Oh, you already know.
Oh, man.
You know that's coming.
Oh, my God. You just hyped me up.
Hearing that you're such a fan of heavy metal, because I took a lot of inspiration from heavy metal to make the Nihil theme. I made it as electric guitar, bass and battery, drums. Sorry, that's the phrase for it. And drums, little piece, which was pretty hard, and I translated it then in orchestral form, and I'm happy that it worked.
It definitely worked. I think even in the books, they're almost described as these like punk rocker, anarchists, and heavy metal. Even when you listen to, I'm almost finished with the audiobook they've produced, The Tempest Runner. And even there, when you hear the Nihil and the stories focused on them, there's like kind of like electric guitar sounds in the background to kind of give you that Mad Max Fury Road kind of feel. They're like heavy metal guys. They're the bad guys, you know?
Exactly.
You definitely succeeded there. Michael, it's been a complete pleasure to have you here. Once again, I would love to have you back. Could you please remind the audience what channels can they go to view your work? And obviously, we'll include the links in this video description as well.
Yeah, so on YouTube, just look for Grushkov Music. That's I think you can see my name. So that even just Grushkov, you'll find it very easily. I have a stag head with leaves, red leaves on it. It's my partner who made me this, because I wanted people to recognize me in the future. So that's my logo.
It's a cool logo. It's a recognizable, definitely. I like it.
Yeah, so there's that. And if you want to listen to me in better quality, you can find me on Apple Music or Spotify. You look for Grushkov, or you click the links that maybe we'll provide. It's all there. And on Twitter, sometimes I say things, which is Grushkov Music. I rebranded just before I put out my music. So Grushkov Music it is. You'll find me pretty much anywhere.
All right, awesome. I will include all the links in the video. I'll try to drive as much traffic your way from my YouTube, from my Facebook group, where I also have like 3,000 and growing fans, and hopefully more people will be exposed to your work. I wish you great luck on the composing of the second project. I can't wait to hear Nihil more. And thank you so much for all your hard work. And I'm pretty sure more and more fans will discover your work and will appreciate the High Republic and your musical score.
Yeah, thank you. It was great being here. That's the first time, and it was such a pleasure.
And hopefully not the
Thank you.
last.
And an honor.
So, guys, once again, you've been watching to Star Wars Timeline podcast. I had wonderful guests. We had a blast talking to one another. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, hit that bell button. I'm pretty sure we'll see Michael here again. He just agreed on record. He will show up. And, go and check out all of his links, support his channel. He is a wonderful composer. I think he made his mark on the Star Wars franchise in the most wonderful way. We see a lot of YouTube videos where people produce short films. Well, now you get to see a composer producing some of the most kick-ass work I honestly heard in regards to Star Wars fandom. Check his stuff out, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.